possession, like a branding iron, and I am Yahweh, the Creator. The working hand of Yod, and now you have a minion, which is 10. These are the first 10 letters, and if this means I will, and this means this is my, then he's basically saying this is what I am doing. This is my plan for what I'm going to do. These first 10 letters of my own accord. And even Yeshua said, no man takes my life, I have come to lay it down. That's embedded in the letters. But this has nothing to do with Christianity. This was from, I believe, the letters from before the creation of the heavens and the earth. I believe this was the plan that Hebrew is not a human tongue, not a human language, but designed by the Creator, which I'll show you in a minute why. Unless we wait till after dinner, unless people want to wait.
Probably the next break, when it's a good time for you.
Okay, but then I'll show you the rest of the couple letters here. So if that's the first 10 letters, the next letter is the letter Kaf, which is the open hand, or like that, which basically, here's for you. But it's also, as a prefix letter, Kaf means like. Like, as a suffix, it means you. In other words, he did all this for you. But now, as a prefix of the next phase, it means like. And the next letter is Lamed. So, like the teachings and the learnings regarding the Torah. So he did all this so that we can be cut off from the world outside to enter his kingdom, to be sealed as his. And now this is also, the letter Tet means something spinning. Well, what spins where the artist's hand is the next letter working it? It's kind of like a potter's wheel in the potter. So once we come into the kingdom, what he does is he takes us, his clay, earthenware humans, puts us on the potter's wheel and starts spinning us according to being conformed to everything like what he said. And the letter Kaf Lamed literally means, the word Kaf Lamed literally means all. The next word, Mem, Nun, as a word means out of and away from, or beyond. But the interesting thing, the Yod Kaf Lamed Mem is the 4 letters in the middle of the alphabet. There's 22 letters in the alphabet. Now if you look at the menorah, there's 3 arms on each side and 1 in the middle. And if you look real close in Exodus, where he tells you to make a menorah, he said there should be 3 bulbs, 3 bowls, 3 cups on each of the 6 branches, and 4 in the middle. Well, if you have 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 times 6 is 18, plus 4 is 22. There's actually 22 bowls. And so it's like, what do you do with a bowl? Isn't that a place where you put the oil and maybe have a wick? Could there maybe have been 22 wicks? Now, there was maybe 1 reflector behind each one. But now you have 3 lights. You have 22 lights divided by 7, happens to be pi, 3.14, which means it was an intentional engineered design. But if you have the 22 letters divided by the 7, it means that there's something going on there. But the 4 in the middle happen to be Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem. Now if you say, well, Yod, Kaf, Lamed literally means to have the power, to the capacity to prevail, to be able to contain all and be successful. And Lamed Mem, Mem as a suffix means them, so that means to them. So you could say, Yod, he who does all of that was instructed of them will have the power and the capacity to prevail. But if you take the letter Yod off, and what you have is Kaf Lamed Mem, it means where we get the word calm, or nothingness, or calamity, where everything has been destroyed, and you're basically ashamed and embarrassed, and they got nothing. But and that's just right there looking at the letters. That's the 4 in the middle. So here you have, if Kaf Lamed, we'll get into this later, but if Kaf Lamed line up with the altar of sacrifice, the barbecue grill with the 4 corner points of the horns on the altar, Mem Nun line up with the laver, which is made out of the women's mirrors. Remember, Mem is like the woman's womb that gives birth, the one that jumps out of it, like looking at the reflection of yourself, which is your child. Tet, Tet, and Yod line up with the big fence with the 4-colored door on it. And the 4-colored door being blue, purple, red with white linen, I basically think it means Yod Vave. Blue, Yod, the hand of the Creator. We have blue tzitzi thread and blue sapphire, the throne room floor that Moshe saw. Purple, the royal decrees of the Torah, which is the, like Chag HaMatzot, the filter there you learn the instructions. Red, the one birthed as Mashiach, blue, purple, red. White linen, the righteous words of the saints. Well, right after this comes Samik, ayin pei, which is in the set-apart place of the menorah, the table of showbread, and the altar of incense, which basically lines up with Micah 6:8. He has shown you, a man, what is good and what Yahweh requires of you. Do justly, the psalmic. Love mercy, the scales of the ayin, what goes around comes around. Blessed and merciful, they will receive mercy. And the pei, which is walk humbly with your Elohim, like rejoicing at Sukkot when you're with one another, rejoicing with your walking with your Elohim as you walk with each other. So that lines up with the, well, anyway, after this, so here's what you have in this pattern. He did all this so that you can have the power and the capacity to prevail as you live out this life, doing the instructions, and Mem and Nun has to do with having an affection regarding the instructions. Because like a woman giving birth, if you have an affection for the instructions, you will bring forth the blessing, but if you hate and despise and loathe the instructions, you're going to bring forth the curse. That's what he said. In the Torah, it was all about the instructions, but then you look in Joshua and Judges, Yahweh's complaint was all about his people not trusting him, not believing him. I told you that I would whoop your enemies for you, and you didn't believe me. That was his complaint consistently through those books. And then the rest of the books in the prophets were all about saying, you guys aren't doing what he said to do. So because you're not doing what he said, what's coming back on you is these repercussions of the curses of things getting worse and worse. And instead of turning around when things get worse, you get even worse. We could turn around. But that all has to do with doing loving mercy, doing justly, walking humbly with Elohim. After that is the letter Zadi, which is the sprout which lines up with the Ark of the Covenant, little glyphic symbol of that, which is like Aaron's rod that budded. Aaron's rod was a dead stick. He put it there. Which one do you authorize, Yahweh? It sprouted. It budded, leafed, put out almonds overnight, like the dead stick rising, like the resurrection. So here there's a picture of him being put to death 3 days and 3 nights later, resurrecting. The next letter, Kuf, it literally means after this, and it also means to rise up. Kumi, like the comb of a rooster, or a comb that has, it means to stand up, or it means to come back. So this letter, Kuf, is the ascension after he resurrected, but it also means after this, when he comes back. When he comes back, Resh, the exalted one, Shin, El Shaddai, the teeth and fire to consume his enemies, and Tav accomplished the covenant just as he said. Interestingly enough, as we're looking at 3 and 2 letter word groups, Resh, Shin, Tav literally means a net, a trap, a snare, or to gather up and collect your stuff and take it away. And the letter Kuf is basically a symbol of a sickle for harvesting. So we're supposed to do this to bring forth righteousness, and after that, he's going to come back and gather up his own. Well, there's the message in the alphabet, but it has nothing to do with Christianity, because here's the point. These symbols, which we'll get into later, I'll just mention it briefly, are key to the 7 days of creation. The number 7 is the Zion, the cutoff day that you sit and don't work. The 7th festival, here you have 1, Pesach, like day 1, let there be light. Separating water from water, like separating leaven from leaven. The 2nd festival, the 2nd day. The 3rd day, separating water from land and speaking forth plant life, putting the seed in the fertile earth to bring forth life. Life was actually created on that 3rd day. That's like Shavuot, the 50 days of counting, 49 days of pregnancy, and the 1 day of birthing. It's the theme. Then you go to the menorah, the day that the psalmic, the day that he put the sun, moon, and stars in the sky to establish time and principalities like the constellations in their houses. The sun to rule the day, the moon to rule the night. The ayin has to do with Yom Kippur, which has to do with the day you put the fish and seabirds in there, which has to do with judgment, has to do with scales, has to do with seeing whether you are fit and worthy and whether you're forgiven because you've forgiven one another. The pei has to do with Sukkot, has to do with the 6th day. He made animals and man for communication, for fellowship, just like the theme of Sukkot. And then the 7th festival, which most people don't say this. A lot of your teachers won't tell you this. They'll say that there's 2 festivals here, and they drop off Shemini Atzeret. But Shemini Atzeret lines up with the Zadi, lines up with the Ark of the Covenant. Shavuot is a 50-day festival. It's not 2 separate festivals according to this pattern. It's a 50-day festival, pregnancy and giving birth. 49 days of counting and jumping out. This then basically, the Kuf lines up with the pillar of fire and pillar of smoke over the Kadosh Kodashim, over the Ark of the Covenant. It's kind of the shape, the Kuf kind of like the shape of a question mark, like the pillar of smoke, and the exclamation point pointing right down to this stuff. Any questions? It's this stuff. What stuff? The Torah that was put, Ten Commandments that was put in the Ark of the Covenant, or actually it's Ark of the Testament. That there's the pattern. Well, here's the thing. Yahweh's established the 7 days of creation. That was his stuff, kadosh stuff. It wasn't human. It wasn't a religion. No government king decreed that we're going to have a holiday. The 7 festivals, Leviticus 23, Yahweh said, these are my things. The Mishkan, the pattern that Yahweh showed Moshe, he said, Moshe, up on Mount Sinai, I showed you this pattern. The word is tabanit, the pattern. He showed him of the Mishkan in heaven. He says, now you make the one on earth just like it. That means these 3 things are Yahweh's personal design, which is kadosh. The 7 days, the 7 festivals, and the 7 pieces of the Mishkan pattern. If those are kadosh, and they map the meaning of the letters exactly, then that means these letters are equivalent, exactly the same as these other 3 things which are kadosh. The alphabet then is the map orchestrating the sequence of events that he would do with creation. When he says, I will, that means it was his plan to do something. That means he came up with a plan to do it, and then he did it, which means the plan preceded him doing it, which means the plan was before he put the universe into existence, spun it around and came down to earth and revealed the whole thing and put down to 7 days. And that means this Hebrew alphabet is the oldest archaeological thing, relic, artifact that anybody can find because it's older than the stars. The stars are put into the sky on day 4. Down here, the atomic, and yet this alphabet says, I'm going to do that on day 4. This is older than the stars, which means it came right out of Yahweh's throne room, which means it's Yahweh's revelation of himself. These Hebrew letters are Yahweh's revealing himself. And as himself, echad, one, united, absolutely the same with his Torah, these 22 letters is how you render the Torah. And because Yeshua HaMashiach is the Word made flesh, which word? This word, turned into flesh, this is who Yeshua really is. So when you say, well, what's Yahweh's Shem, his name, is it Yod He Vav He? Is that a Shem? It's his name, his fame, renown, his occupation. What is he concerned with? These are the 22 matters that he gave us and said, this is my concern. This is what I invented. This is my occupation. This is my reputation. I'm the guy who made the heavens and the earth. I'm the guy who rested the 7th day. I'm the guy who made my kingdom available to the people who would regard my instructions. And according to how they nurtured my word in their heart,